welcome back to my potato stream. Hey, I'm not just playing Stardew Valley, though of course it's in the background. I do need to add that I would love feedback. Anyone who's subscribed, not subscribed, anyone who likes, hates Stardew Valley, could you give me your own opinion of what you think about this game? Because personally, I am having this feeling that I don't know if this is the right game for me or not. I just keep going back and forth with myself over some of it. I don't know, I like the aspect of it being what it is. So, it feels on the surface that it's this laid back, you're just planting, you're gardening, if you want, you can go fishing. If you want, you can just chop down, you can forage. If you want, you can just go to town and talk to people. You don't have to pay bills. You don't have to do anything. So you're not being forced to make money. Every time you do something to make money, you are just acquiring wealth. Part that kind of confuses me, and maybe I'm just looking at this game like I do other games, I like the energy bar. I love the energy bar, in fact. I like how it forces you to be tactical about how you use your energy, and not overusing energy can cause you to be just tuckered out, and now you can't do anything and you're exhausted. I love that about this game. The time, interesting enough, is another mechanic. The game feels so fast-paced in how it paces time. Early game, this makes sense because you don't really have a lot of energy, so really it doesn't really affect anything. The time kind of goes about as quick as your energy bar. But what I'm noticing is as the game goes on and you have the ability to eat, you have the ability to you've leveled up so things don't take as much energy. Now I'm finding it where, first and foremost, I feel very obligated to sit down and I have to pause the game and go, what do I want to do today? Because I'm going to waste a lot of time if I'm gardening and working with my crop, or I'm going to be having a big problem if I'm trying to, I want to go to I need to water everything or it's going to die or not grow as fast. I have to watch out for crows now, so I have to make sure that I got these scarecrows. But then what if I want to go to town and talk to people? And then you make it to town and you're like, okay, I'm going to run to town. And you get to town and you realize it's the wrong time. So you either have to wait or it just so happens the shop is closed that day. And then it just feels like you took all that time walking to town, wasting your clock, and then you get there and you either have to wait around for the place to open, or you get there and it's like the blacksmith. He literally closes at 4 p.m. And now I know this. But until you get that in your mindset, you get there and it's 15-20 after 4, you go over to the blacksmith. He's all the way on the other side of the map. You go to town and you walk past town, you get to the blacksmith, and you notice the guy's walking out. You walk past him, and then you're like, what? You walk up to the door and it's like, yep, he closed 15 minutes ago. And you're like, well, now I can't even do what I wanted to do. So then you're like, I guess I'm walking back home, and now I just lost 3 hours in game just walking to town and walking back. And that's the part that I kind of want to gripe about. And I think I don't know, maybe I'm just looking at this game different because time really doesn't matter. But I just constantly feel like the game is telling me that I can slow down and not think about stuff. But then it's whoa, hurry up. Oh, the day's over. You wasted it. And I don't know. I just feel I don't know. I want to be able to change the time, but that's not the game. The game has a fixed system for your energy, for your time, and it really causes me anxiety because I kind of like the ability to and this could just be me and my problem, but I would love to be able to make the time go by fast if I need it to go by fast, or skip time, or be able to enjoy the same amount of time. Now, maybe still have a clock, but I just don't like how quick it is. So I would love somebody to tell me what you think about that system and tell me how I am completely a dummy, or you understand and you have your own feeling. I'd love some feedback on it, because I just feel that's one aspect of this game that's causing me to not want to get into it. I sit down and I just feel this game doesn't feel at all relaxing. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's the point of the game, is it comes off as this oh, do it at your own pace. And maybe it's never said that. I just thought it when I looked at it. I was just oh, this is one of those games that you just you go as quick as you want to go. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I need to just not worry about the days and just, I guess reset and then continue what I was doing the next day. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. The seasons are throwing me off too. Then, I'm trying to romance people. Just, I don't know. It's just something to do. I'm like, I guess I'll get, like, I hear lately all I do is I just give, if I find a flower or something, I'm just like, I give it to every single one of these girls. I'd be flirting with them. But I don't know. But other than that, I figured I'm going to continue to show the progress I've made. I'm kind of, as of right now, I don't know. This game may be incomplete. I don't know. I need to at least try to do a year and then maybe call it after that. I don't know if I'm just not having fun. But I'm just going to keep showing what I'm doing. And so this is my part 2 of, like, it's not really a part 2, but like my speed run. And again, speed run doesn't mean that. But as you can tell in the back, this is just kind of playing, kind of in a little rapid fire, because I just don't feel like there's a lot in this game. But I also wanted to talk with everyone and just kind of, like, chit chat and have you all float with me down this potato stream. Before I go any further, I hope you are all having a not just great day, but a wonderful day. And if not, man, if you can't get it here, go somewhere else, watch another video, go outside, do something to make it a wonderful day. Look, this life is short, and problems and trials and just bad days happen. Bad days, they happen to me, they happen to you, they happen to everybody. And one of the things I drill this in constantly. I have made this my persona. I want to live by this, but I always want any of you beautiful spuds, if you come here, you float with me down this horribly amateur potato stream, I want you to know that I want you to leave here in a little bit of a better mood than when you came here, regardless if it was a good mood or not. And if you can't do that, then go somewhere that you can, because I want this to be a place where we can just relax, float down the stream, and just, get to know each other. Or I guess you get to know me more than anything. You leave me a comment, we can chat, I'm always up for feedback, positive or negative. With that said, I'm going to continue to be playing in the background, unless I have something I want to say about what's going on, but for the most part, I am going to bore or entertain all of you with another story. So, by the end of this video, I will have told you another story from my path. I have been thinking about it a while. I didn't really know where I wanted to land on it, but I think I got something. So if you buckle in, we're gonna go down and we're gonna jump into the stream. So let me tell you about another story, and maybe it's funny, maybe it's not, but I just figured I'd share it with y'all. All right, here we go. Alright, so my story is in a couple layers. So first we have to go backwards a while to when I was, I guess, 10, 11-year-old boy. And this is long ago when I was living in a bigger city. And this was before my father had retired and we had moved into more of a rural area. So during this time, when I lived in the city, we lived on a block that had a alleyway that was in like the middle of behind where there you had the front street, and then there was an alley, and then both sides shared that alley, and then there was another street on the, of course, other side. And this alleyway is pretty much where I spent most of my childhood. It was in this alleyway that I met most of my friends, and while I would have to say in today's standards of how and what I would judge a friend on, I would have to say we were friends. Sometimes we were the lesser of two evils, and sometimes there were other kids that we shared the alley with who was not our friends, and we were constantly having problems with them, constant problems, to the point that there was always some kind of shenanigans that would cause some kind of a disturbance. Multiple times, me and my friends would have fist fights with some of them, when none of the parents were around. A lot of the times, and when I say fist fights, I meant I got punched a lot, and then you try, sometimes you got a good hit back in, a lot of the times you just run away. I'm not ashamed to say that now as a grown person, as someone who I knew my limitations, and at the time, a lot of the times you just ran away. Sometimes they'd try to, if you had something that they wanted, they'd rob you of it, or try to rob it. If you had a baseball, they'd take your baseball. If you had, I don't know, a toy, a frisbee, something that you were goofing around with, God forbid if you set it down, or if you had it in your hand, they'd come up and be like, hey, can I see that? Let me play with it. And you're like, no. And then then there'd be two of them, and they're like, hey, let me play with that. And you're like, no. And then sometimes they just yank it out your hand, and then you have to go chase them down. Sometimes you get it back, a lot of the times you don't. So with the story that leads up, one major thing that had happened is me and my friends. Now, I should let you know that the main core of my friends were all brothers. So I had 4 specific friends in this case, and they were all brothers, and they were staggered. The oldest was around my age. Maybe we never figured out. I think I was barely older than him. I don't remember. He may have been older than me, but it wasn't by much. So 10, 11, and then each of his brothers was pretty much a step down by 1 to 1.5 years. So looking at this now from my perspective, they, I guess, was having a child. This family was every year, and every year they had a boy. So the oldest was about 10, 11. Then the second was about 9 to 10. The third was about 8 to 9. And then the last one, I think, was the biggest gap, and I think he was like 6. I'm pretty sure 6, maybe 7. But we all ran together, we were kids. Now, leading up to my main story, that I think is the main attraction that I wanted to talk about of some of the stuff in my past, just as a good story, or maybe it's a bad story. I should probably not be proud of this story in no way. But leading up to this, my dad didn't really, at one point later, I got a bike, but at this time, I didn't have a bike, and we were afraid. Dad didn't want to get a bike because he was afraid of storing it. He was afraid it would get stolen. We just didn't know how it would work, so I just didn't have one. Now, my friends, the 4 brothers, they had bikes. They didn't always have bikes, but they had gotten bikes. But they had an area that they could store the bikes, and they never had anyone steal it, like overnight or anything. But they would ride in the alley all the time on their bike. Not all the time, but many times they would. And so occasionally, the second from oldest brother would let me also ride his bike. He was really bad about getting tired, and of course I was bugging him all the time. I'm like, ooh, can I get a ride? Can I get a ride? Can I get a ride? And the oldest and the third from the top, they didn't. And then I guess there was only 3 bikes. So the youngest one didn't have a bike. Or if he did, it must have been I think it was like a little bike that had tricycle wheels. My memory's a little vague on that. I think he did have a bike, but it was tricycle wheels. And you know what? I think I did ride it a couple times, and I think I got yelled at by their uncle that lived with them. Well, their whole family lived it. They had bought 3 different, they had this shared communal apartment building, and it was down the block from what we lived on, but of course it still shared that alleyway. And I guess what would you call it, a duplex? It was 2 buildings that each had one side for people and one side for the other couple. So it was basically a long rectangle house that was cut in the middle. And so there was 4 apartments or duplex, two duplex or 4 duplex, however you want to say it. And this family, they all lived in it. And then they also owned the house next to it, which was an actual house. It was their grandparents that lived there. And then there was a skip, and then one more house down, they owned that as well, some of them. And it was a whole family. And it was uncles and aunts or brothers to each other. But anywho, the main point of the story is they had this little area, and they could park their bikes in there because in between the 2 houses, they had a concrete slab and a gate on each side. So it was private. The 2 duplexes or 2 houses that had 4, I don't know, I guess a duplex is 2 places. So it was two it was 2 duplexes, and so they had that area there that they could gate stuff off. And then they also had the yard next to it that they had a dog in, and they would put stuff in there as well. Now, the dog didn't do a lot, but I definitely think the dog, it kept anyone from wanting to scale over it and try to take stuff, because the dog was always there, and the dog did bark at everything. Now, the dog was pretty friendly to me, and I don't know, I guess the dog wouldn't have been friendly if somebody had jumped over, but the dog just was kind of like there as precaution. Though the grandparents, they were a lot of the times there, so it's not like they didn't have eyes. So of course at nighttime you never know what's going to happen. But I digress. So in the story, so they had these bikes, and there was these rival kids who lived kind of in between. They were on the other side of the alley, so they were on the other side of the street that bordered the middle of this alleyway for their street and our street. And they were, I think, also 3 brothers, and they hated us a lot of the times. We were always having problems. Many times problems happened. They didn't have bikes at the time, and so during this time period why we had these bikes, or my friends had the bike, they would watch, and they would constantly try to interfere, and while we're racing and goofing off and doing stuff, they'd come up. And of course, at this point, we wasn't very friendly with them, but that didn't mean you didn't come up and approach people if you wasn't friendly. They'd come up all the time, even though you'd just been yelling at them the week before. They were yelling at you, and you both know you hate each other. They'd be coming up and be like, hey, can I take it? Can I have a ride on that bike? And they'd be like, no. Come on, let me have a ride. No. You're like, I'm not going to steal it. Yeah, no. And, sometimes they'd throw rocks at us. We'd throw rocks back at them. Sometimes, stuff. It was always something. Well, and one time they convinced the middle, or the second from the top, we'll just in ascending order from oldest to youngest, we'll call him friend 1, 2, 3, 4. So friend number 2, he one time let one of them, I think it was the brother, but needless to say, one of the boys that we kind of had beef with, he let him ride his bike once, and he rode it, wouldn't get off. We had to chase him. He just kept doing donuts, and we'd try to chase him on the bike, off the bike, just trying to get him off of it, and he literally wouldn't let my friend number 2 have his bike back. It was ridiculous. It was like a whole day event where we're just trying, and we kind of got parents involved, and their uncle, because their dad wasn't there, their uncle or whoever, their grandpa, no, it was an uncle. But anywho, we got in a doubt. They had to go over personally into the yard, knock on the door, and talk to their parents. And even then, it was very tensions. They really didn't care, but we ultimately got the bike back. However, in the time that he had it, he had taken a pocket knife and had put scratches all over the thing. I'm assuming I want to buy a new bike because I've been losing weight, and I feel like I'm athletic enough to go biking again currently, but I haven't actually seen a bike in a while, so I feel like I'm making kind of an assumption here. But I remember the bikes we had, they had these, and they might make them slightly different. So none of the bikes that we had back then were the speed bikes. These were the old school bikes. They had no handbrake. If you wanted to stop, you had to start to pedal backwards to lock up the chain so that it would slow you down. We didn't have no handbrake brake that you could grab it and then it would squeeze the tire and slow you down. So I remember the side of his bike had a rubber piece on the left handle. Somehow they had either ripped it off or it came off, or I don't know, but the one side of his bike literally was gone, and it was just a metal, it just was the metal underneath, no rubber grip, nothing. It's just completely gone. And they'd scratch it, either they scuffed it. It looked like, I remember as a kid, it looked like he had taken a steak knife from his house or a pocket knife or something and had just scraped a hole whole bunch of things. There was a decal on like the middle part of the bike, and it had been like peeled off, but he could like, it was stuck on, but like it was like halfway unrolled. I don't know. It was a bad event. And so because of that, their dad had to like fix the bike up. So like I remember he had like put, I don't remember, how did he do it? He had put some kind of piece of rubber on it. I don't know what it was from, but I know his handle had like this piece of rubber from like, I don't know if it was like insulating, like some kind of insulation that went to like an AC unit, like on the outside or that. But he took this like piece of rubber thing and had like basically black electrical taped it onto the end of my friend number two's bike, and the decal they had basically, I want to say they clear taped it back on, and you know, other than that the bike rode, but it was just, I'll never forget, the bike always had that thing on it after they taped it on. It never came off. It looked stupid as all heck, but he had that. Well, anywho, these kids are rivals. They still constantly wanted to borrow the bike. Well, this one day, we're out there, and we're racing. And I don't know why, but it was some kind of competition. We're really trying to beat each other. I don't, but we were taking turns, and number one friend, the oldest, he kept winning. He was beating everybody. And I remember they let me have a go, and I went a couple times, and I almost beat him, but he still was doing real good. Well, during this time, the way we had the route, it went past their house, and their house, or the back of it, had like the small little garage, and their yard had like 2 or 3, I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're like a wild blackberry tree or like a wild apricot tree, because we were in a big city, but like they got, and I'd have to do some research, every year they would have these like weird, like it would bud, these like, I don't even know, like they almost, it was a plant, but it almost reminds me of like a spiraled out shrimp, but I'm not, when I say shrimp, I mean just like the way it's curled, but they were like, and they would float in the wind. So if anyone knows what the heck what tree that comes from, I may, after recording this, I may look online, so I might be able to show you what I'm talking about here, currently. I don't know, that's future me that would be doing it, so if I do, it's here. If I didn't find it, because I have no clue. I don't know what the tree was. I don't know what I know it had fruit on it, but we never ate the fruit. But it looked kind of like blackberries. So I don't know what kind of a like blackberry tree that has these weird like spore things. They were like wheat colored, and they would fly, and they had like feathers almost, because like they'd float on the wind. And they were a good size. They're about half the size of a finger, like 2 digits of a finger. And they would just float, and you could ruffle them. Like they had like little, like a wing. Like, I don't know how to describe. Hopefully I found a picture and I showed you, so you know what the hell I'm talking about. But anywho, they had these trees, and so they constantly always had like, you know, debris. They'd have like all of these like little seedlings everywhere. These things that would float, these wheat colored like wing feathered things, and you know, they'd have tree branches come off all the time and that. Well, we're racing, and the brothers, our nemesis, they had been bugging us, and the bad thing is they just watch us, and like sometimes we were always careful, because like sometimes they'd throw rocks, or sometimes they'd grab the freaking blackberry things and they'd throw those at you, because those would drop down, or they'd pluck them off, and like it was always something going on. Well, this day specifically, we're biking, and we're trying real hard to beat brother number one. So it's my turn. We had been doing this for who knows how long. You know, it's summer. None of us had school. We've been goofing off in the alley the whole day. A couple of us had a couple accidents, threw a thing, or lost balance, fell and, you know, hit, you know, get some rocks, some glass, and you're just like, oh, it's not that bad. You look at it, you don't think you need stitches, you don't want to go tell your mom. It's not like you like cut your whole leg up, but it's like you fell and you got a big bruise now on your on your shin and a piece of like a small sliver of glass gotcha, but it's not like I don't know if I'm it's like a piece, like a little cube of glass, and instead of it like cutting you, it's just like you just pick it out and you have a pinprick of blood, and you're like, oh, that could have been worse. Or you just have like, skid marks and just like a whole just friction burn from all the gravel that you just hit. But we've done that a couple times. Well, we're biking and we're biking and we're biking, and we almost got him on one race. And we're trying, I think what we were hoping was he'd wear himself down, and because we were switching off because there was only 3 bikes, and with me, and of course with the youngest brother not actually really participating on his 3-wheeler, we could like rest in between the races. So it's like we got to me and brother number 3 got this ingenious idea that, hey, one of us can beat him if we just keep switching off. Like we'll do like 2 races and then we'll do 2 more, but then we'll switch after that second race, and then race number 3 and 4 is the other person. And so the plan was we'll just wear down brother number 1 until we can beat him, and then we could brag to him that he's a loser because he could never be defeated, at least this day. Now, of course, we had beat him before, but like as a kid back then, it was all about that day. And that day, he hadn't been defeated, and we were going to do it. We were going to do it before we had to go home and have dinner, before playtime was over. So we were going to do it. Well, the Nemesis, there was 2 this day. They constantly kept popping up, and sometimes they'd run in front of where you're biking, or they'd plop in the way because they wanted to upset how you were biking, so you'd have to bike around them. Then they'd yell at you to not run them over, and it was just like a whole deal. Well, in this event, on this day, we were biking, and it was my turn to bike, so I'm pretty sure, though, I think it was brother number 3 that I switched with. I'm pretty sure, yes, it was brother number 3. He was on the sideline. We started, we do ready, set, go. We start biking. Brother number 1 is winning, but he's slowing down. Brother number 2 is not doing great, but he's in the way of me. So I go to bike around him, and I'm getting close. I'm almost tied with brother number 1. I'm on his left side. He's kind of leaning to the right side of the alley, which was on the other side, the side that bordered these nemesis other brothers who were always trying to get on us. And so we're biking. I look over because we're getting close, because basically a little past where my house was the finish line, but we had to pass their house along the way. Like I said, they had those trees, and they had a garage that kind of blocked some of your vision. Until you got up there, you couldn't actually see, because they had like a wall and there was a little driveway that was their property, not the like where they could actually park their cars in that. And so, it like had fresh white stone gravel. But anywho, we're biking, and I had looked over because I thought I was going to be brother number 1. And as I look over, I see one of the boys, the oldest of the boys of our nemesis. They run out from behind the garage, and they have, I shit you not, this tree limb. It was a good old walking stick inside. Like if you go out on a hike and you see people that like they get these like branches that they like kind of like turn and like, oh, it's a good walking stick, like a cane. But of course, this is it's not been carved. It's just a tree that, a branch that snapped off. But just to give you an idea about how long it was and how thick it was. He runs out with this, and he was screaming something about wanting to have a turn, and he shoves this tree branch right in, like perfectly. He runs out the corner as we're passing, perfectly side clips him, and shoves this tree branch and makes it. Not only runs up, but shoves it into brother number 1's wheel that's spinning perfectly to where it like instantaneously flipped him over. Not only was it harpooned in, it went right through the front tire and immediately caught and flipped brother number 1 out. He ended up kind of hitting the guy. They all tumbled. I skid to a stop. Brother number 2 skids to a stop from from behind, and we look at the carnage. Here's brother number one, his bike, and the whole front tire completely dented. Like, it was amazing. I've had multiple people, as I've told the story multiple times, and I still, to this day, I feel like some people think I'm bullshitting about how this boy was able to shove this big giant, like, walking stick tree limb into his front tire while we were booking it, trying to do a race. He had never done it before. He never did it after. But just out of nowhere, he decided to do this. And I swear to you that this is a real story. Like, it was so crazy. He on a whim, decided he was going to mess up our day, and he shoved it in there. We get over there, and the bike's all messed up. But because of how he flipped, we were booking it. He took just the whole asphalt, gravel, everything you can think of. He took it full force on his jaw and on his face. There was blood everywhere. I mean, realistically, it wasn't like a lot of blood, but it was a lot of blood for us. Like, he was like, his face was gashed open, and it was pouring down his eye. He couldn't open his eye without, like, it was just like, oh my goodness, it was so much blood. And like, we're just like freaking out. The boy, we ended up like shoving him, and we kind of, I would have to say, I'm not proud of it, but I think we kind of like beat him up a little bit. Though I remember after he did it, he himself was a little, like, he was knocked down. He was complaining about his like arm, because I guess brother number one had fallen on him when he was falling. But like, he was acting like he was a victim. And I remember I think brother number two kicking him a couple times, and he ran off to go get his brothers. It was just something that will be forever seared into my memory. Just the whole event was just so unbelievable and so wild on how he was able to get that tree limb into his bike. It all ended up being a lot of tensions. My friends' parents got into such a huge fight. I don't actually know to this day what went down. I do know that their family, like, I don't know if they tried to do legal action. I was young, so, that was something I never re-asked about, and I have to this day no clue if they got money or what happened. I do know that my friend had a whole bunch of, like, he had a couple stitches, he had some stitches in his face, and he had went to the hospital. Like, it was a big deal, and there was a lot of tension that happened every time we were in the alley, and that was not the last of the stories with those other brothers that we had dealings with. But that was a story of just one day of just me in the alley with my friends when I was a kid. And I have some other stuff. I have a story about a shed in the alley that I'll eventually tell. And there's just some crazy stuff, just stuff that happened. There was the event with the red wagon, and which was horrible. And gosh, there was the rocks. There was the just, this is kind of pieced together, but we just so happen on the recording of this part, it is 4th of July, so happy 4th of July, but just fireworks. Oh my goodness. And that's the event that I would love to tell about, the garage shed in the in the alleyway, but I'll leave it at this. We were notorious as kids for taking fireworks and using them as weapons against each other, which you're not supposed to do. You should never do. And we, for the most part, never got harmed horribly. So I would say we got lucky, where I would never recommend anyone else to do those. That's why, there's so many horror stories of people getting hurt doing that. But I ended up releasing this video after all. This got stuck in limbo for the longest time, and I really don't think I'm going to play Stardew Valley anymore. Though, if again, this is a separate audio from the one you just probably listened to maybe 20-30 minutes ago, but that was a younger me who was still playing the game. Now I haven't, and I think the next video is going to be a satisfactory video while I'm talking to you and just kind of catching up. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you haven't, then I get it. But if you did, please give me a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to me. A lot of the people that view my stuff ain't even subscribed. Give me a like. Give me a comment. I'd love to talk with you. With that said, thanks so much for floating with me down this potato stream. Sorry it took me so long to release this next Stardew video. I just can't find time, but I hopefully have some time up on the horizon that I can start dishing some stuff out. Not that necessarily anybody wants to watch this, but I'm definitely going to be adding more to my channel, and that's all I can promise, is that there will be more, or threaten. I don't know how, if you don't like this, I get it. But look, I'm done rambling. Why don't you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.